So today we're going to do a mite inspection. We're also possibly going to be adding another deep to the Blossom because she came in a medium. So we're probably going to want to try and get her into 2 deeps for winter, and what better time than now. So without further ado, we will get started. A little bit of smoke here. Smoke on me too to make sure that I'm not getting stung, because that would not be any fun. Although my wife does find it quite entertaining.
You not.
Calm down here. A couple of little guys hanging out here. Looks like this lady did not make it. Not sure what her, might have gotten kicked out because nobody liked her. Prying up here. They are definitely jam-packed full. So what you're looking for when you pull the lid off, at least that's what I'm told, is hive beetles, because the hive beetles will get caught up here as the bees do it. We found my first hive beetle during my last inspection, but I don't see any on this one. They're good that way. Let's give these ladies a little bit of smoke, see if we can calm them down. They do seem to be a little bit more rammy than they were before. I have not had a whole lot of issues with them in the past, but right now they don't seem to be too kind or too happy with me. As you say, this one's a medium frame. This is what I want to try and get them off of and down into the bigger frames, but there's a whole lot of nothing going on in that frame. So just lay that down here. If you want to grab it for me, that'd be great. I trust the assistant and spectator, better known as my queen bee. And that is a very beautiful frame of capped honey. Not quite sure how much you see on there, but that is a beautiful frame full of capped honey.
Yeah, it is.
Go with, it's really funny as you look at, they've capped all this honey on that side, and there's absolutely nothing on the other side. So we will slide this over here. Typically try to remember to smoke between pulling each frame out to make sure that they stay a little bit disoriented with the sound of, or the movement. So obviously this isn't all capped, this isn't all honey. As you can see right there in the middle, there is some capped brood. It looks a little different, almost looks like a cloth material, as opposed to this side you can see is all wax. And that's wax capping honey. So we want to try and keep her making and laying her eggs down the bottom, but it's not always possible. I may have to add a queen excluder on if I do find the queen down below on our inspection today, and I'll probably add the queen excluder below this box and put the other big box on here. Yes, we definitely have a laying queen up top here. As I'm seeing some brood, it might be really hard to tell. I'm going to try and bring it over and show you, but you can see some pupa inside the frame itself. So, really hard to tell. I don't know if that's going to focus, but there's some little pupa that are down inside there.
What is pupa? Is that a certain stage?
Yeah, pupa is probably 5 or 6 days old. from the egg, and the pupa, it'll go from those stages. And again, I'm not a beekeeper. I'm not a bee haver. I'm trying to be a beekeeper and learn, but you'll go from eggs to pupa to larva, and then they'll get capped. And then when they get capped, they go into the kind of like a metamorphosis stage, almost like a caterpillar to a butterfly, in which they will then grow out and become a bee. And here's a good example of much older pupa. You can see much older pupa right here at the top middle. You can see they look like a much bigger larva, almost like a grub. That's the way I would explain it. I got some pollen in those corners as well. However, some honey. Some more capped brood on this side, nothing too much different. Look. See, I have a queen cup down the bottom here. It's got a bee with its head in there, which would indicate to me that there's probably something inside there. Yes, so right down here, you can see the queen cup. And inside there is a pretty decent sized larva. So that's a few days old. That would indicate to me a swarm by everything I've read. However, I had a bunch of queen cups on this one before. And even with the bunch of queen cups, they then looked like they aborted the swarm because I had added a deep box in the bottom. So I don't know if they had abandoned the swarm or just postponed it now that I see this one with another larva in it. All right, so I think finally I'm seeing eggs, which would mean the queen was here just a day or so ago. This queen is marked if she hasn't swarmed, which there's another swarm cell.
Where?
Down the bottom there.
Oh, yeah.
There's the side view of it.
Where do you
The
see
bees are
eggs?
going in. As I get to the bottom has, again, these smaller boxes or these supers are designed more for honey. So they have yellow frames, pre-foundation put on them, which makes it easy to see and gives the honey a nicer look, but it makes it really hard to see eggs because it's all yellow. But I still see little larvae, so I'm pretty confident the queen's still in here. Might be a capped queen cell right there sticking out. I had a couple of queen cells again on this hive. Oh, and there's the queen. So the queen is up here. Let's see if I can bring her into focus here. She's kind of right there in the middle. You see her, she's got a little yellow dot on her. She's got her head in a cell right now. There she is, crossing her at the bottom. So that's her. She wanders around, sticks her head in the cell. If she likes what she sees, you'll see her back up and put her butt inside like right now, she just put her butt in a cell and she just laid an egg. So that's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
That is a packed full of honey side. What's really funny is because now this one's packed on this side and closest to the brood nest is pretty empty. So I wonder why they would do that. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, I was just looking, so nonetheless, it was rather interesting. And if you've noticed, I've just realized I've totally forgot to smoke the hive as I've been going. But they're less protective of their honey stores This is completely blank, but this side is completely covered in honey. They're less protective, ironically, of their honey stores, and much more protective, which makes sense, of the brood. So as you get down into the brood, the bees tend to get a little bit more rammy, a little bit more anxious, and you can almost feel the temperament of the bees as you go along. So sliding these frames back is how I got my first bee sting, which was almost happened again on the same thumb, because they sit on these little tabs. It's hard to see. Maybe I'll grab the phone and show you these little tabs. They sit on these little tabs, and as they sit on these tabs here, and as I'm pushing them back, if I'm not paying attention, like I wasn't the one time, I put my finger right here like this to push them back, and lo and behold, there was a poor little lady sitting there who let me know relatively quickly that I was pinching her. So she wanted no parts of that. So we will put these guys back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. See, always good to count your frames, because I was ready to put this back together and forgot that we had some ladies down here. So that would have been bad had I put them together. You get a little rammy, you get some guard bees that kind of fly around you and land on you and buzz your tower. That's what I said, like, you get the feel, the temperament of the bees. And know when they're saying, hey, we're kind of not liking you. So I am still going to pull this off just to look at that bottom hive, bottom brood box. Break it off. That crackling and popping you hear, that is bee glue, which they call propolis. And that's kind of what they do to kind of keep everything tight, everything together. Also, stops breezes and drafts and stuff from coming through, because the brood has to stay in the 90s as a temperature. So at 90 degrees, if it gets too hot or too cold, the brood will die. Now, if the brood dies, then the bees are not very happy and they're not very successful. A bee's lifespan is really short. By the time they're a bee, it's like 30 to 45 days. So you will typically see close to, and you can see this frame is a lot larger than the last one. And notice the color of it's black. They're just starting to draw some wax out on this, which is good. But this is find the frame hanger. This makes it a little bit easier, and this is kind of what I want to see them. I want to see them fill 2 of these boxes to get through winter, because again, it takes them, they only last 30 to 45 days is it the natural bee life. But in the winter, which is kind of cool, the same queen will make the same type of bee, but that bee will last 3 to 4 months. So again, not a whole lot you can see on this. You can see that they're drawing out this wax. As they draw out the wax, it's really pretty and white and clean. As they continue to fly in and move around on this wax, it gets darker and darker. So move a little bit quicker as they are starting to get a little bit rammier. And you can see, like, that is what they call bee bread. You can see where they take that pollen, they mix that pollen with a little bit of their saliva and a little bit of their honey, what they store in their honey gut. They mix that all up, and then it kind of rises like a dough. And that's what they use for their protein. Their honey is their carbohydrate that they'll eat and they'll use. And the bee bread is kind of their proteins. They're obviously not meat eaters, so they're not munching into a steak or even into my hand as they go along, thankfully. But yellow jackets, on the other hand, will are meat eaters. So that's why they bite you, they sting you. Yellow jackets would love to get inside the hive and eat all the bee brood. So here is a nice frame. It's got some capped brood on it. You got some honey on the outside that's not capped yet. On that side. On this side we got some more capped brood. Still drawing these frames out, so it's still pretty early. Returning the frames can be difficult as well because the bees love to hang out on the side walls. They hang out on those side walls and you can easily roll one up and crush it. That's why you gotta be really slow. Not to mention, you wanna be slow too so you don't get stung. They don't like a whole lot of fast movement. A couple of bees hanging around my face again. I'm seeing cap brood down here, but I'm not seeing eggs or larvae. So I'm thinking the queen was still up there. Now, if you're not new to beekeeping, you're probably laughing at me because I didn't pick the queen up and put the queen down here since this is where I want her. But I'm not so good at handling bees just yet. So I want to hold off until a little better. If I find her in the bottom box, then that'll be better. But for the most part, they're pretty docile. You got not easy to see eggs, even on this frame. And just a glisten of some nectar and stuff that they have going on in there. I'll pull out this last frame. It looks like these 3 frames down on the end here. Excuse me, sweetheart. The frames down the end aren't drawn out at all. Again, they're just still working. All right, so that's pretty cool. So you'll see right here, looks like a really big bee. That's a drone bee. So this is me practicing picking up bees. But the drone bee, right here, makes a big noise. You got a big vibration, but they don't have a stinger. So just like in the human world, it's typically not the guys that get you, it's the women that sting you. So, sole job for a male bee is to go out, just like in the world, the men are in the hive are pretty useless. So I have my shot at men since I have my shot at women. So the male bees, their sole job is to find a virgin queen and mate. They serve no other purpose. They don't fly to flower. They don't go. They don't move any honey. They don't move any nectar. They don't do any of that. Their sole job: leave the hive in the morning, fly up, find a virgin queen, mate with her. In the process, they die, fall to the ground to their death, become bird food, whatever, and their lifespan's over. If they don't find any, they fly back here in the middle of the night or before dusk, and they come back into the hive. Eventually, what will happen is during the winter, as we approach winter, what they'll do is the females will kick out all the male bees. And then they'll become homeless. And then they're definitely bird food or dead. Or just die of cold or whatnot. Yeah. Overexposure. There's a solo female bee. I can't pick her up. I pick her up, she's going to decide to grab her abdomen, turn it around, and squish my butt. So, trying to get her, coax her onto the hive tool so I can pop her. Nope. Totally forgot she can fly because I'm an idiot. But I have to scrape off some of this fur comb. And we forgot forgot, again, this is like the 5th or 6th hive inspection I've done, and I continue to forget to bring out my container
Maybe we should leave it
to take out some of this honeycomb.
in the shed.
Yeah, we probably should.
Put it on top of the other hive.
So we'll clean that off. I'm going to slide this back on top, and that will conclude. We have resources, we have honey, we have a queen. I did not see eggs, but I think that's because I can't see eggs yet. I don't understand how to find them. But until next time, enjoy the honeyness.